In the previous episode, Obrapa, the most ridiculed man in the village of Susubiribi, lived a life wrapped in hardship and humiliation. Poor, mocked and forgotten, he was the man no one invited, no woman accepted, and no child respected. Life had beaten him so badly that even hope seemed to avoid him. One fateful day, after working on a farm for mere coins, Obrapa encountered a frail old woman in the forest, struggling under the weight of firewood. He offered to help, but as he carried the bundle, it grew unbearably heavy, then mysteriously light. When he turned to question the woman, she smiled and revealed that she was over 1,000 years old and knew every man's destiny. Obrapa, stunned, asked about his own fate. Her words chilled him. "You will be the richest man in the entire kingdom, but your own son will one day kill you, and if you somehow escape this fate, you will outlive time itself, becoming immortal." Obrapa had no wife, no child, and no wealth. Yet the prophecy had been spoken, and something had already begun to shift. The story continues, and destiny has only just begun to unfold. 9 moons had passed, and the cries of a newborn pierced the early dawn. Abebrese, glowing with joy, held her baby boy close to her chest. To her, he was a blessing, a promise of family and future. But to Obrapa, that cry echoed like a warning drum from the ancestors. He stared at the child with hollow eyes, his soul heavy with dread. "Is this the son, the one who will kill me?" he whispered. Abebrese had heard only a fraction of the strange prophecy Obrapa once spoke of, and even that she brushed off as a foolish tale of an old man tired of poverty. But Obrapa could not forget. The old woman's words had taken root in his soul. 7 days passed. It was the day of naming, a sacred time when the spirit of a child speaks through signs. Abebrese, curious and proud, cradled the child and called Obrapa close. "Let's check his palm," she said playfully. "Maybe greatness lies in his hands." Obrapa hesitated. His heart pounded like war drums in his chest, yet he reached for the boy's hand. And then he saw it. Not lines, not symbols, visions. Like a dream burning into his mind, he saw himself, older, running through a dark forest. And behind him the boy, no longer a child, with a sharp spear, eyes cold as winter rain, chasing him like prey. Then the final image. The son driving the spear into his father's heart. Obrapa dropped the hand, breathless. Sweat drenched his brow. The child cooed, unaware of the fear he had just triggered. "He's the one," Obrapa muttered. "My own blood, my own end." That night he could not sleep. His eyes stayed fixed on the baby as he slept beside Abebrese, so innocent, so peaceful. And yet, within him lay the death of his own father. The question burned through Obrapa's chest like firewood in Hamatan. How do you love the very person fate has chosen to destroy you? He thought of the old woman's final words. "If you escape this destiny, you will outlive me. You will become a god." Escape. But how? Could fate be rewritten? Could a father outrun the shadow cast by his own son? The child stirred. A soft smile curled on his tiny lips. Abebrese whispered in her sleep. But Obrapa did not move. He just stared, not at the baby, but at the future, and it stared back. Obrapa was the voice of fate in Susubiribi. His prophecies never missed. The sick traveled miles to hear his verdict. Farmers sowed or withheld their seeds based on his words. Even chiefs refused to declare war without consulting the man whose eyes saw beyond time. His wife, Abebrese, believed in him more than she believed in the morning sun. But this time, Obrapa lied. And it wasn't just any lie. It was a lie dipped in fear, wrapped in prophecy. He told his wife that the child they brought into the world, their son, would one day kill them both. In truth, the vision revealed only Obrapa's death. But he could not bear the loneliness of that prophecy, so he twisted the tale, pulling Abebrese into the curse. Her heart broke in silence. She had loved the boy, she still did, but the vision, the fear, her trust in Obrapa, they clawed at her soul. And in those days, a child born with a fate that threatened family or community was declared confront, a spirit child, an abomination, the kind said to carry the energy of misfortune. "We must act," Obrapa told her. "The gods will understand." Abebrese wept for nights. She cradled the child and whispered songs into his ears, pretending it was just another lullaby, but in her heart, war raged between love and survival. "I will never forgive myself," she said one morning, her voice hoarse from sleeplessness. "But if it is true that he carries death in his soul, then I will protect us both." And so, together, they chose the unthinkable, to offer the child to the gods. It was not unheard of. In the old days, spirit children were left beneath sacred trees or taken to the priests who lived deep in the groves. There, the gods would decide their fate, to accept them or silence them forever. The decision shattered her, but tradition wrapped itself tightly around her chest like a python. She was not just a mother, she was a wife sworn to stand by her husband, even if the enemy wore her son's face. That night, as the moon rose behind the baobab tree, Obrapa carried his son in silence. Abebrese followed behind, her eyes swollen, but her steps steady. They approached the edge of the forest, where the shrine of the forgotten spirit stood, a place feared by even the boldest hunters. It was said that whatever was offered there was never returned. As they laid the child at the base of the tree, a breeze swept through the leaves, whispering something only the forest could understand. Obrapa stood still, guilt gnawed at him. He had lied to save his life, and now he was sacrificing his truth. Abebrese turned away, unable to watch. But as they stepped back, ready to leave, the child stopped crying. The forest fell, deathly silent. Obrapa walked away from the sacred grove that night, believing he had outsmarted the gods. The child, his child, lay behind, abandoned beneath the roots of the ancient baobab. To Obrapa, it was finished. The prophecy had been cut short. The threat to his life was gone. At last, he could breathe. He returned home to Abebrese with a heavy sigh and a silent heart. Neither of them spoke of what they had done. The silence between them was loud, louder than any drums ever beaten at a funeral. But fate is not so easily erased. Far from Susubiribi, across 3 rivers and through thick ancestral forests, a hunter named Ananse moved silently beneath the canopy. A man of skill and solitude, he had gone deep into the wilderness in search of antelope. Instead, he heard the soft cry of something far more vulnerable. A baby. His eyes narrowed. He followed the sound through the moonlit trees until he reached a clearing, and what he saw rooted him to the earth. There, lying peacefully beneath the great baobab, was a baby wrapped in worn cloth, and beside the child, curled protectively, was a lion. Yes, a lion. The beast did not roar, it did not attack. It simply rose slowly, locked eyes with the hunter, and walked away with the calmness of a spirit on assignment. Ananse, a seasoned hunter with nerves of steel, felt no fear, only awe. He knew at once. This was no ordinary child. He dropped to his knees. "The gods have placed something in my path," he whispered. With trembling hands, he lifted the child. The boy smiled at him. Not a cry, not a scream, only a divine calm. When Ananse returned home, his wife Amabonsu wept at the sight. She was a woman whose womb had carried 10 pregnancies, but birthed none. They had cried to the gods, poured libations, sat in silence at shrines. And now, out of the wild, came this radiant child. "A divine gift," she whispered, holding the baby close. "This child is not from man. He is from above." They named him Nyame Awan, the will of the god. From that day forward, the village of Bosamasi regarded the boy with deep reverence. Birds perched where he walked, snakes slithered away. The village priest, blind since birth, touched his forehead and declared, "He is marked by the stars. What was rejected will one day judge those who rejected him." But back in Susubiribi, Obrapa smiled to himself, unaware that the very life he tried to erase was now being nurtured by fate itself. For in the Akan world, they say, "The river you reject may quench your thirst tomorrow." And so begins the rise of Nyame Awan, the divine child protected by the lion and preserved by destiny. Back in Susubiribi, Obrapa's life had bloomed like a forbidden fruit. The once forgotten man had become a legend. Palm readers from distant towns came to sit at his feet. He wore fine robes now, ate with chiefs, and owned vast stretches of land. People bowed when they mentioned his name, and gold filled every corner of his home. To him, the prophecy was behind him, buried beneath the roots of that ancient tree. He had removed his greatest threat, so he thought. But far from Susubiribi, in the tranquil village of Boti, the boy he abandoned was thriving. Nyame Awan, the divine child, had grown into a remarkable young man, unaware that fate had written his name in the stars long before he took his first steps. Raised by Ananse, the hunter, and Amabonsu, he believed they were his true parents, and he cherished them with a heart full of gratitude. They had given him love, dignity, and purpose. Ever since Ananse brought Nyame Awan home, everything changed. Their once modest life flourished. Their crops grew taller, their goats multiplied, and sickness avoided their doorstep. Villagers whispered, "That boy is blessed. Even the earth obeys him." By age 18, Nyame Awan had become the pride of Boti. Though surrounded by comfort, he never became lazy or arrogant. He rose before the roosters crow, fetching water, cleaning the compound, and helping the elders with their daily chores. Many mornings he visited the homes of the aged, silently taking up their farming tools and saying only, "Rest, Nana. Let me help you weed today." And he did, tirelessly. His hands, though divine, were calloused by humility. He could work under the sun for hours, clearing vast acres of land, yet never complained. Even when others rested, he would be seen helping children gather firewood or escorting old women from the market. But what truly amazed the village was his bravery. On days when food was scarce or meat was needed, Nyame Awan would take his father's old hunting gun, passed down from Ananse's ancestors, and disappear into the forest alone. No fear, no boasting, just purpose. And he never came back empty-handed. One evening he returned dragging behind him a massive antelope. Another time it was a wild boar. Some swore he once carried 2 grass cutters in one hand and a sack of mushrooms in the other. The forest, which others feared, opened for him like a friend. Even wild animals seemed to respect him. Nyame Awan is no ordinary child, the elders said. The spirits know his name. He gave most of the meat to elders, widows, and children. His generosity, matched with his strength, made him beloved. Yet he never sought praise. Whenever thanked, he simply smiled and said, "It is the will of the gods." And yet, the gods had not forgotten where he came from. For while one man believed he had defeated destiny, another, the son of fate, was walking ever closer to the truth. In the quiet village of Boti, time passed like the slow rustling of ancient leaves. Nyame Awan had become the rock of his home, a young man with the heart of a warrior and the soul of a priest. But even the strongest roots are shaken when storms arrive without warning. It began with a fever. Ama Bonsu, the only mother Nyame Awan had ever known, fell sick, her body burning, her voice fading. The villagers tried every known herb, every prayer, every potion the forest could provide. The elders called for the herbalist from Adukrom, the priestess from Obo, and even the famed healer from Chebi. But nothing worked. Night after night, Nyame Awan sat beside her, gripping her frail hand, whispering the same words again and again. "Don't go, Mami. Don't leave me." But fate had other plans. One morning before the cock crowed, Ama Bonsu slipped into the arms of the ancestors. The village wept, but Nyame Awan broke. He did not speak for 3 days. He buried her himself, weeping as he placed beads around her wrists and kissed her forehead one last time. She was not just a woman, the elders said. She was a womb of the gods. 3 years passed. The pain lingered like smoke from a slow-burning fire. Then came another blow. Ananse, the brave hunter who had once rescued him from the jaws of destiny, fell ill. This time, the sickness was slower, but deeper. His body weakened day by day. His once powerful frame shriveled. His breath grew shallow like a dying wind. Nyame Awan refused to let history repeat itself. He summoned every herbalist, every spirit medium, every forest walker, but they all shook their heads. "This is beyond our hands," they said. But Nyame Awan would not accept it. He packed his father's wealth, all the gold pieces Ananse had stored over the years, the gleaming diamonds collected from sacred rivers, the blood-red rubies gifted by grateful villagers, even the ancestral cowries passed down from the hunter's lineage. Then, in front of the whole village, he made a declaration. "I will find the cure. I will cross rivers, mountains and deserts. Whoever can heal my father shall have all this wealth and more. Let the gods guide me, for I will not return without hope." He tied a sacred cloth around his waist, wore his father's hunting sandals, and hung a pouch of ancestral dust around his neck. As he set off, the villagers gathered in silence. The breeze stirred, the trees bowed ever so slightly, and one of the elders whispered under his breath, "This boy is not walking to find a cure. He's walking into his destiny." Far away in Susubiribi, Obrapa sat beneath his golden parasol, laughing with guests, unaware that the very path his past tried to bury was now walking straight toward him, carrying the fire of fate and the wealth of kings. His palm-reading business had become legendary, his name mentioned in royal courts and sacred shrines. And as if to further mock the prophecy he once feared, Obrapa had 2 children, both girls, beautiful, intelligent, and well-behaved. To him, they were proof that the curse had been undone. "No son, no threat," he often laughed. "Even the gods have bowed to my wisdom." But fate does not sleep. The journey had been long, but Nyame Awan walked with the certainty of a man led by spirits, guided by grief, love, and a desperation only the gods could understand. He arrived in a distant land to seek healing for his father. The stars aligned when his path crossed that of a renowned herbalist, Okomfo Panyin, a man so powerful that kings sought him in the night. But after examining Ananse's case, the herbalist shook his head. "I cannot heal this man," he said solemnly. "But there is one who might give you the answer you seek, not through herbs, but through the palm. His name is Obrapa, the greatest palm reader the world has ever known. He resides in the Susubiribi kingdom." Nyame Awan's heart stirred at the name. He had never heard of it before, yet something in his blood responded. Within 3 days, he arrived in Susubiribi, a kingdom of wealth, gold, and laughter. The very first person he asked pointed eagerly toward a golden compound. "That is the home of the one who reads destiny." Nyame Awan entered humbly, jewels and gold wrapped in cloth on his back. He bowed before Obrapa, the great seer. But before he could speak, Obrapa raised his hand. "Say nothing," he commanded. "Your palm will speak louder than your tongue." Nyame Awan extended his hand. Obrapa took it. The world froze. He peered into the lines, into the ridges, into the divine marks carved by the stars. What he saw chilled him, but not for the reasons he should have. The vision showed a son killing his father, but the gods had veiled the truth. Obrapa, clouded by his own past sin, did not see himself. He only saw death. He saw a killer, and he saw Nyame Awan as the bringer of that death. He dropped the hand, eyes wide. "You carry a cursed energy," he said. "You will bring death to your father. You will kill your own father." Nyame Awan's eyes blazed with fury. "What? Do you even know why I'm here? I've traveled from Boti with my father's entire fortune just to save his life. I would die for him. I came here to beg for healing and you say I'll kill him?" Obrapa remained calm. "I only speak what I see. The palm does not lie, and I do not bend its truth." Nyame Awan threw the heavy cloth to the ground. Gold, diamonds, rubies spilled like fallen stars. "Then let me ask you this," he growled, fists clenched. "I'm giving you all this. If I don't kill my father, what should I do to you?" Obrapa, seeing the wealth before him, laughed softly. His love for gold stirred like a restless snake. "If you don't kill your father," he smirked, "then come back and kill me." Silence swallowed the air. Nyame Awan stared at him, his jaw tight. Somewhere deep in his soul, something ancient stirred. He did not yet know that the man before him, the one casting curses, was his own flesh and blood. But fate was watching, and the gods were not done. After the heated encounter in Susubiribi, Nyame Awan stood tall amidst the spilled jewels and gold, his voice unwavering. "Let your own servants follow me," he said to Obrapa. "Let your king and your elders hear of this. Let them all know what happens if your prophecy fails." And to everyone's surprise, Obrapa agreed. Whether it was pride, arrogance, or a twisted belief in his own vision, no one could tell. He called 3 of his most trusted household servants, men who had witnessed many years of prophecies, and instructed them to follow Nyame Awan to Boti, to witness the outcome, and if need be, witness his death. Within 10 days, the journey was completed. The sun was just beginning to rise over the thatched rooftops of Boti when they arrived. But the moment they stepped into the village, they were greeted not with celebration, but with weeping. A drum beat low and steady in the distance. People sat on mats, heads bowed, and the air was heavy with mourning. Nyame Awan rushed forward. "What has happened?" One of the elders stepped forward slowly, his voice shaking. "Your father, Mr. Ananse, passed away 2 days ago. We have not yet buried him because we were waiting for your return. His final wish was to see you one last time." Nyame Awan stood frozen, as though the wind had punched through his chest. His knees buckled, his lips quivered. He fell to the ground, screaming in anguish. He was too late, and with Ananse's death, the final thread to his true identity was cut. The only two people who knew the truth, that he was not born of their blood, were now buried in silence. The servants who came with him looked on, their faces pale with guilt and awe. This was not the outcome they expected. They had come to witness the miracle of healing or the fulfillment of a deadly prophecy. But what they witnessed instead was grief. Deep, painful grief. When the burial was complete, Nyame Awan stood at the graveside. His eyes were dry now, not from peace, but from exhaustion. He turned to the 3 servants. The sun had barely touched the golden gates of Susubiribi when a shadow passed through them. But this was no ordinary return. It was the return of judgment. Nyame Awan, draped in mourning black, rode calmly at the front. Behind him were the 3 servants of Obrapa, their faces heavy with the weight of truth. The guards at the gates bowed out of habit, unaware that destiny itself had entered the kingdom. They marched straight to Obrapa's compound, the same place where weeks earlier gold had glittered and prophecy had echoed. Obrapa sat in his grand hall, surrounded by praise singers and noblemen, laughing under palm fronds. His daughters brought him fruits, and dancers moved to the rhythm of drums. Until Nyame Awan appeared, the music stopped. Obrapa narrowed his eyes. Nyame Awan stepped forward, voice sharp and calm. "Ask your servants what they saw. Ask them who killed my father." Obrapa looked to his men, his most trusted eyes and ears. The oldest servant stepped forward, trembling. "My lord, the boy's father, Mr. Ananse, is indeed dead, but he was not killed. He died 2 days before we arrived, from a strange sickness. The villagers say he waited for Nyame Awan to return, but he passed before he could say goodbye." Obrapa's face went pale. The second servant added, "The boy did not bring death. He brought wealth, herbs, prayers, everything, but it was too late." The third looked down in shame. "We saw his pain. We saw his love. He buried his father with his own hands." The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to Obrapa, the man who had boldly declared death where there was none, the man who claimed to see the future, but could not even see his own past. Nyame Awan stepped closer. "You said I would kill my father," he said coldly. "You swore your life on it. So now, what shall become of you?" Obrapa's mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time in decades, his prophecy had failed, a failure that bore a price. He rose slowly, his once proud shoulders now bent by shame. "The palm has never lied to me," he muttered. "I do not understand." The people of Susubiribi gathered like storm clouds around the palace courtyard. Whispers of Obrapa's failed prophecy spread like wildfire. The king, the elders, and even strangers held their breath, watching the man once called the greatest palm reader fall to his knees, surrounded by truth too heavy to carry. Nyame Awan, wounded by Obrapa's lies, stepped forward once more. "You said I would kill my father," he growled. "You tied your life to that lie. Now you will pay with that life." Before anyone could speak again, a blade flashed. Steel pierced flesh. Obrapa gasped. The crowd shrieked, and in that split second, destiny was sealed. Nyame Awan staggered back, the dagger trembling in his hand. He hadn't meant to, not fully. The death of Ananse, the mockery of prophecy, it had boiled over. The blade moved before his thoughts could catch it. Obrapa fell to the ground, clutching his chest, his breaths shallow and broken. Just then, Abibrese arrived. She burst through the gates, eyes wide in horror. "Obrapa!" she screamed. She ran to him, fell to her knees, cradling his bloodied body in her arms. His eyes fluttered, barely open. "Abibrese!" he gasped. It was him, the boy, the old woman. She came, just now, before my breath left me. "What are you saying?" she cried. She told him the truth. Check his back. The mark. The birthmark. His lips trembled. Then silence. Obrapa, the man who once read futures, had met his end by the very fate he tried to outrun. Abibrese turned with wild eyes. "Check his back," she cried. "The mark! We must check!" Nyame Awan, trembling, confused, stepped back. "What is this? What are you saying?" The king raised his hand. "Boy, you must allow this. You must." The crowd held its breath as Nyame Awan slowly untied the back of his tunic. He turned, and there it was, a dark, crescent-shaped birthmark just below his right shoulder blade. The very same mark that Obrapa carried since childhood. The same mark Abibrese had seen the night her son was born. She collapsed. Her cries shattered the silence. You killed your own father," she wailed. "The man you just stabbed, he gave you life." Nyame Awan froze. The air turned to ash in his lungs. "No," he whispered. Abibrese, through tears, began to explain, the truth buried for decades. "We were young and afraid. Obrapa saw a vision that you would kill him. He begged me to agree. We abandoned you under the baobab tree, hoping it would change fate. But it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. You were our son, my son, his son. And now—" She broke again into sobs. Nyame Awan dropped to his knees, his mind fractured under the weight of the truth. The blade in his hand clattered to the ground. "The same birthmark," he whispered. "The old woman. I saw her in a vision." His mouth trembled. "I killed my father. I killed him." The people watched in stunned silence. Some wept. Others turned away. The king closed his eyes and said, "The gods do not forget. Even when men lie, destiny will collect its debt." Nyame Awan, the boy once protected by lions, the man named the Will of the Gods, had fulfilled a prophecy, not by intention, but by divine orchestration. And though the gods were now satisfied, the heart of a son had shattered forever. Nyame Awan never returned to Boti. The village of his childhood became a memory wrapped in pain. Instead, he remained in Susubiribi, the very land where his fate unfolded, and lived among his two sisters. He forgave his mother, Abibrese, not because the pain vanished, but because forgiveness was the only bridge left between what was broken and what could be healed. And so ends the tale of Obrapa, the man who tried to outwit death, only to be caught by the very destiny he feared. Let this story remind us of one eternal truth. No one born of blood and flesh can escape death. No matter how powerful you are, no matter your wealth, your wisdom, your beauty, you cannot bribe death. You cannot bribe the gods. You cannot silence fate, and you cannot erase your wrongs by burying the truth. If you are mistreating someone today, remember this: you too will one day lie silent, replaced by those who come after you. The Akan say, "No one can turn into a stone. We all shall pass." So be humble, respect others, love deeply, and most importantly, learn to forgive. This is the story of a man who tried to run from fate, and a son who fulfilled it without knowing. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ananse Web of Tales for more captivating stories filled with wisdom, spirit, and the soul of our ancestors. And let us know where in the world you're watching from, because every storyteller has a home, and every tale finds its way back to the fire. Medase, thank you, and see you in our next video.